Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm redrawing a picture I drew on the channel about 2 years ago, I believe it was, of my OC Livia. Now I know there are going to be people who are not all that interested in this video because of it being a drawing of an OC. And when it comes to other people's characters, most people either love hearing about them or are entirely uninterested, because why would they care about some other person's random character? But I hope you guys stick around for this video because honestly, I kind of love the way this picture turns out, and I think you will too. Not to mention, the old versus new comparison is crazy. You're not gonna want to miss it. So please, allow me to explain, and you just might find that you actually like Livia, or at least the drawing of her. As much as I love fixing the flaws in old drawings, because I notice a flaw and then it kind of drives me crazy, I also agree with something I heard someone say one time, which was something to the effect of, why spend time redrawing old pictures when you can draw something new? Or something like that. I don't really remember, to be honest. And I agree with that in the sense that if you're always redrawing old pictures, then you'll never draw something new. But I do also love redrawing old pictures, especially after it's been a few years, so the contrast is more intense. You can see how you've improved over the years and try to fix any glaring mistakes. Now the reason I decided to redraw this drawing specifically is because I have this idea for a story that I thought Liv would fit quite perfectly into. And I didn't really have a story or universe for her. She was just kind of a random character I came up with that was floating around in my brain. I'll explain more about the story in a bit, but because of this newfound idea, it sparked inspiration in me to update the sketch of her. Because for a long time, I've just liked the old drawing of her and wanted to do an updated version, so I drew up the sketch, and I liked it so much that I had to finish it, and I figured, why not make it into a video? Even though I was kind of already working on another drawing. But it turns out it's just about the anniversary of the time I drew the old drawing on this channel, which was actually in May, because of that whole mermaid thing that people do. So I wanted to redraw this picture for its anniversary, and for May, even though by the time this video gets out, it will no longer be May because I started working on it too late, so this whole thing was kind of pointless. I'm so good at my job. I already changed the drawing for this video, and I'm not about to do it again. To be fair, I'm still gonna finish the other drawing, but it probably won't be in the next video because I also have a plan for the next drawing, and because of that, the next video should be out soon, hopefully? I already started sketching it out because I just couldn't help myself, and I'm pretty excited to finish it, and I think you might be able to guess who it's gonna be of. Also, sorry it's been a while since my last video. I recently moved to a different state, and I'm trying to get back into the groove of uploading. This will actually be my first video since the move. And for those of you interested, I did vlog the move, and I am working on editing it, so that should be one of my next videos. Random fun fact I just wanted to mention at some point in this video, I think this will be my 100th video, so that's cool. Happy 100th video, yay! Anyways, seeing as this video is a redraw of a picture I drew in a previous video, I may repeat things that I said about the character or design in this video that I had already said in the old video, because honestly, I don't really remember what I talked about in that video, but that's okay because that drawing slash video was kind of bad, so don't go watch it. Alright, things I changed about Livia's design. First off, her tail. Originally her tail was kind of clear or translucent, like a fish, I guess? And the design was supposed to be inspired by Barbie's mermaid tail from that one Barbie movie. I think it's the Fairytopia Mermaidia one. Wow, that's a mouthful. That's what it was called, right? There's a mermaid character in the movie, and then there's Barbie's character, who turns into a mermaid at some point. I don't remember their names. The mermaid had a pretty standard, boring, normal mermaid tail, but Barbie had a tail that was really cool looking. At least I thought so. I guess it was supposed to look like a flower or something, like her skirt was when she was a fairy, but I thought it was way cooler than the tails that most mermaids are depicted with. So I attempted to make my own version of that style of tail, though the original design I came up with didn't really look anything like it. I guess it was supposed to have like the shape and maybe some of the patterns, but yeah. So this time around, I looked up what the character actually looked like for inspiration, and it turns out her tail is almost like layered? Review the previous statement of it kind of looking like a flower. So I thought it might look cool if I used a similar concept, and thus the design I ended up with has her main tail fin with a similar shape to the original version, but no longer translucent. Boop! Translucent. With a few smaller fins adorning the base of the tail, and I made these little fins translucent. I also changed the pattern on the tail, and I think I like it. Let me know what you think. I also added webbing between her fingers, because I still like that idea. Another thing I did was give her individual scales. So many scales. This was a concept I had thought of the first time around, either to give her scales all over her tail or just a few scales here and there to give the idea that she had scales, but I didn't think it would look good, so I ended up with a really slimy looking tail, which is kinda gross. Not good. So this time I decided to give it a chance and hope that I would like it. So adding all those scales wouldn't just be an extreme waste of time. because let me tell you, it took forever. And got kind of trippy looking at that sea of scales for so long, but I like the way the scales end up looking. They're not perfect, and I would like to try and redraw them a little bit differently next time, but yeah, what do you think? One thing that was tricky was trying to figure out which way the scales should face. I like drawing mermaids with scales covering their bodies over having them wear clothes, because mermaids wearing clothes is kind of weird. I mean, I'm not totally against the idea. I think it just depends on what you're going for. And for what I was going for and the purposes of this story, I didn't want them to wear clothes as mermaids. And that's because they're actually more of sirens and not mermaids. I'll talk more about the lore in a bit, but just keep that in mind. In fact, I'll start calling her a siren from now on so it's less confusing. Even though I'm also probably gonna continue to reference mermaids because they're kind of different. But yeah, so I wanted the scales to go up her body and down her tail, and I thought the best way to do that was to have them kind of spiraling from her back. I don't know how I feel about the way it looks though, so you'll have to let me know. One thing that you'll see in the video that gets changed in the final drawing is her nose. I don't know how, but I accidentally drew her with a really tiny nose and didn't notice until I had finished the entire drawing. So I went back and made it a little bit bigger, because I just wanted her to have a somewhat bigger nose, and even if I didn't, the first nose I drew was way too small, even for my art style. At least for me. And I definitely like the more defined nose on her better. Her looks are actually Italian inspired, but she's not supposed to be Italian since I imagine that sirens are their own ethnicity and culture. But even so, I feel like they would share a resemblance with humans. Speaking of facial features, I always imagined her with essentially cat eyes, or I guess siren eyes. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to the pupils of her eyes being slit eyes, or the kind of eyes that a nocturnal animal would have, since I always imagined sirens being nocturnal. The purpose of a nocturnal animal having eyes like this is so that they can adjust to light better and be able to see well at night, and they just look so dang cool. So I wanted to make sure I gave her those, and I love the way they look. I attempted to do this in the original drawing, but I didn't do a very good job. She also has fangs. I mean, she's a siren, how else is she supposed to eat people? But you can't see them in this drawing because her mouth is closed too much. I gave her gills because I just think that if a siren or mermaid is a fish, then they should have gills to be able to breathe underwater. Though I guess you could say they're mammals, like whales, and just come up for air, then they wouldn't have gills. But then they'd be forced to surface for air, and I kind of want them to be mysterious creatures that lurk in the deep, who are only seen when they want to be. So I kind of imagine mermaids as being a mix of fish and mammal, so they have scales and can breathe underwater using gills, but they also have hair, can breathe using lungs, and have a downward facing tail like other fishy mammals, and that sort of thing. Unlike how in movies like The Little Mermaid, where Ariel can seemingly breathe underwater and above water with no explanation. Not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but I just always found it kind of confusing. Like, how is she able to talk underwater and above water? And for this story, they can only breathe with their gills when they're in their full siren form, and can only breathe using lungs when they're in their full human form. Oh, and yes, they do have two forms. Though I haven't decided if they can change forms at will, or if they have to change forms depending on whether or not they're wet. Think of the movie Luca, which was actually the original inspiration for this character, though I was also inspired by the sirens in Pirates of the Caribbean. Or maybe they need some sort of magical necklace to keep them human? Let me know, what are your thoughts on this concept? However, they can't become completely human. She'll always keep her fangs and siren eyes, which is why in human form, I imagine they always wear sunglasses, so you can't see their eyes, at least when they're trying to blend in with the rest of the humans. So at first look, you might not notice that they're not human, but there are little things that might tip you off. But okay, since we're kind of talking about the story, let's just continue on this train and talk a little bit about the character and her story. First off, Livia isn't who I imagined to be the main character. It's actually centered around a witch school, not like Harry Potter, that I call the Witch Academy. Very creative, I know. This is most likely going to be a high school, but it could end up being a college or possibly a summer school so they could attend a normal human school as well. The main premise of the story focuses on witches and wizards attending the school, and how the school starts to allow other creatures to join, and all that drama. You could also say it's kind of like zombies or Monster High, since this isn't some new unheard of concept. Though I honestly wasn't thinking about any of these when coming up with the idea. There's nothing new under the sun, I guess. The idea actually stemmed from me wanting to make some new characters and thinking, what if I made a group of friends that were made up of all different types of mythical creatures and monsters, and you know, they're like friends even though their species don't really get along kind of thing. So I came up with Willow the witch, Wanda the werewolf, Vitani the vampire, I swear I didn't purposely alliterate their names by the way, Ocean the siren, and Lexi the alien, a group of unlikely friends. So I think Willow will be the main character of the story. She'd be a new witch to the academy, just finding out that she has magic, and she'd be an advocate for the other creatures, though not all of them have good intentions. Ooh, drama. If you want to know more about the story or characters, let me know. It's a work in progress. But now to understand more about Livia, we must go back to the beginning, as Livia is a character I created way before I came up with this story. I became inspired to make a mermaid character after watching the movie Luca, as I previously mentioned. She was originally intended to be younger, like the characters from the movie, but in this new story she will be an older teen or a young adult. Like I said, I haven't decided yet, it depends on what I do with this story. But since she's older now, I don't have to worry about trying to make her look young, because drawing characters who aren't around young adult age is something I really need to work on, especially when it comes to drawing younger characters. But I think that's one of the reasons I feel like the old picture looks bad. And I think the composition lends itself to making her look older, so I don't know what I was thinking before, since this is basically what I had originally imagined the picture to look like. I gave her an athletic build, as I would imagine all mermaids are quite fit from swimming around all the time. Swimming is a great form of exercise. I also tried to make her as beautiful as I know how, because sirens are literally known to be beautiful. And I mean, how else is she supposed to lure sailors to their death? Actually, I have an answer to that. With their siren song, of course. The two things that sirens are most known for. And in this world, sirens can manipulate people with their singing, obviously. And when they sing, their eyes glow, because cool, I guess. Why not? Okay, but like, she's not exactly a vicious siren that'll eat your guts, but I mean, kind of. She might. I haven't fully decided on exactly how vicious the sirens are gonna be in this story. The reason I decided to choose the name Livia is because when looking for names, I didn't want to give her anything too mermaid sounding or too on the nose. Even though I've ended up giving other sirens in this story mermaid slash water-like names, like Ocean or Coral, but that's fine because it's quite fitting for Liv. She's not like other girls. And I only had to name one character at the time. But I chose this name because it means blue, like water and like her main color, and I just think it's a cool name. Speaking of names, I have another character who also exists in this world, who is also a character I created before I came up with the story. You might remember her. I didn't have a name for her at the time, but she's the witch girl I drew for Halloween last year. Though I believe that video came out after Halloween, so this picture coming out after the month it should have is apparently on brand for this theme. I'll link that one in the description in case you want to go watch it, and you totally should by the way, because it's an underrated picture. But anyway, she is a student at this school, and the name I've decided to give her is Raven. I know it's cliche, but she was inspired by black cats and ravens, and I didn't really want to name her anything cat related, so I went with Raven. Though she is also a little inspired by owls, so I guess I could have named her something owl themed. Cut to me searching up owl themed baby names, and would you look at that? I could have named her Cato, which is kind of funny sounding, but apparently means knowledge or wise, according to this random website, which is cool, and fits the criteria of being cat themed and bird themed, because it literally sounds like cat. But I don't feel like it or any of the other names on here really fit her vibe, so I guess I'll stick with Raven for now. However, if you have any ideas for a name for Raven, let me know. But it would be better if you commented on her video. Like I said, link in the description. Back to this picture. For the background, similar to the first picture, I put Livia on a rock with the sun setting behind her. Originally, she was more so on the beach, but this time I put her more in the ocean. I mean, she could still be near the shore, but now she's actually in the water. And I like this new background better. The water is lower, takes up less of the background, and is less detailed, which is less distracting and busy. The sun is lower and in the center of the picture, and I like how it shines around her. Originally, I wanted it to shine through the gap in her hair, but I don't know why, especially because her hair is supposed to be swooped around one side over her shoulder, so the hair in the original doesn't really make much sense. But yeah, I prefer this new background to the old one. Overall, I think she had a major glow up, and I hope you can agree. Though I still don't know how to draw water apparently, because I don't feel like Pat necessarily turned out all that good, but I think it turned out better than the original, so I'll take it. Alright, are you ready for the reveal? thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, love you, bye!